So I just finished watching the first season, not the first season, first episode of season 3 of Rick and Morty. In the last season, it ended with Rick Sanchez being in prison in some sort of intergalactic space prison. The planet Earth has been taken over by some sort of intergalactic space federation or some clearly made up name like this. What else? A Birdman is dead. They killed Birdman. That's a tragedy in itself. How do you kill a beloved character like Birdman? And so there's a lot of cliffhangers, and I can't wait for the new season to start. And we got a treat as far as I'm concerned. This first episode wasn't supposed to be released until later. I think that's how it goes, and they sort of gave the fans of this show a present by releasing the first episode ahead of schedule. I could be wrong on that, but either way, I'm glad that it's out there, and it's a very good episode if you ask me. It starts with a shot of Shoney's, whatever that is. I guess it's some sort of diner food franchise from the US that I've never heard of. I don't know that it has, if it ever existed up here in Canada. I don't think it has. Either way, I've never heard of it. So we cut into the diner, and Rick's talking about or finishing up the story of how he escaped from this intergalactic prison, which I thought I totally got fooled, because I thought, oh shit, we're just gonna start a new episode without explaining how Rick escaped this prison. We're just gonna do this cop-out episode or this cop-out scene, just sort of like making a joke of how he escaped but not really explaining it. But then we realized that we're actually not on Earth, but rather in Rick's mind. While he's still in prison, we are inside Rick's mind, and we quickly realize this when we notice something weird. When Rick asks Jerry to fold himself 12 times and he complies, and we actually see him try to do it. At least he failed miserably at it. And we see that something's not right. This, as crazy as Rick and Morty is, it doesn't seem to go with the rules of the show by watching a human being fold himself that many times, which I guess it could happen, because Rick and Morty is a show where anything is possible if you travel to the right dimension. And we realize that we're inside his head, and there's a space bug agent trying to probe into his mind, into his memories. And they're trying to access the part of his brain when he, or the memory that, the part of his brain that has the memory of when he created his famous portal gun. So there's this banter between the space agent going back and forth, and the agent trying to get him to go to that particular memory of Rick. Then we cut to Earth, which has now been taken over by this intergalactic federation, and they are feeding all the humans pills, I guess, to control them somehow with chemicals, with drugs, and keep them obedient. I don't know what, they never really got into why they're feeding them pills, but we can guess why they're an intergalactic federation would want to keep humanity all pilled up. And we see that Rick's granddaughter Summer doesn't, or believes that he will still come to the rescue. And she gets into a fight with her parents because they don't agree that she should still be glorifying Rick or seeing him as some sort of superhero, because they sort of see him as a fuck up. So we cut to a scene where Summer is looking through the garage, looking for some sort of device or clues to see if they can free Rick from this space prison. And Morty is there, and he mentions something about a corpse of Rick being buried in the backyard, which right now I don't remember this. I know that I know that there are multiple Ricks, multiple grandchildren throughout multiple dimensions. It's almost endless, right? So we know that there's more than one Rick, but I don't remember a particular scene where we are told about a dead body of Rick being buried in the backyard. But anyway, so Summer and what's his name, Morty, dig up this corpse, and they find a portal gun in there. And that's when their robot nanny, who's forcefully feeding them pills, turns into crazy cop, goes from nice loving robot nanny to crazy full-blown cop that is gonna try to kill them. And they trigger the portal gun, and they start going through different portals, not portals, different dimensions. I guess they are going through portals as well. And they are rescued by Summer, or Jerry and Summer, from the Cronenberg dimension, because they ended up there, and they they destroy the robot. I think that's what they did. Anyway, so they are rescued by this Cronenberg versions of themselves, the Cronenberg dimension, as in David Cronenberg, the movie director. Then we cut back to Rick and the agent, or actually before they get to the point where Rick remembers how he created the portal gun, we get this scene about Szechuan sauce, which is a sauce that McDonald's released for a promotion for the movie Mulan. I don't know why that was thrown in there. Maybe the creators of the show really have or some sort of a nostalgic memory of this sauce. I don't remember it. I was around when Mulan was out and McDonald's was doing promotions for that movie, or whoever was doing promotions for that movie, but I don't know if that sauce ever came up here to Canada. I don't remember it. I have no memories of it, but apparently that Szechuan sauce, because of the show, has become somewhat of a popular sauce to get, and people are trying to trying to get their hands on it to try it out. I'll probably go online and see if I can get some and see what the big deal is. Apparently the creators of the show thought it was important enough to mention it, which, again, I don't know how many people remember that sauce. Maybe it was a lot more popular in the US than here in Canada. So we get to the point of Rick's memory when he created the portal gun, and apparently Rick was sort of a normal guy with a wife and a daughter, and Rick from another dimension sort of triggers or lets him know that he's going to create something important. I think that's sort of how the story went. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I probably should have written something up instead of just trying to explain what I remember. Okay, so what triggered the creation of the portal gun is that all of a sudden there was this portal that opened up and dropped some sort of a bomb that blew up his wife and kid, and Rick was devastated, and we see him create some sort of mathematical formula, or write up some sort of mathematical formula on the floor of his garage, and he claims that this is the formula that created the portal gun, and we see a very rough version of the portal gun, and we see the alien, the alien agent that's with Rick inside Rick's mind. This might get a little bit confusing trying to explain what happens here, because there's a lot of things that are happening in this episode that are also happening very quick, so you have to pay attention to the episode. But it was good. I love how fast it was moving and all these things that were happening so quickly. So the space agent takes a picture of the formula and uploads it or sends it to the intergalactic headquarters. But as it turns out, when the alien believes that he has the formula to create the portal gun, hold on a second, I gotta blow my nose or something. So when the alien believes that he has the code to create the portal gun and uploads it to the headquarters, it turns out that Rick was actually making up this memory. It never actually happened that way, and that formula that he uploaded to the headquarters was an actual virus that gave Rick access to that whole mind accessing, conscious accessing device mechanism, whatever it is that they're using. It gave Rick full control. So he was able to transfer his consciousness into the consciousness of the bug agent. So now Rick's mind is in the mind of the bug, and Rick knows that with level 9 access, he can more or less, according to him, collapse the universe or this intergalactic federation. So he's trying to get this level 9 access, and apparently in order to access the level 9 washrooms, you need the level 9 access code to get to this washroom. And just before he was about to get it, multiple rigs from all different dimensions crash into the headquarters where Rick's mind is, and they kill the vegetated Rick that's sitting there where the bug agent is trapped in. So they don't know that Rick is in the mind of the bug. But before I actually go ahead with this, I forgot to mention how while all of this is happening, Summer and Morty are in this Cronenberg dimension, and the Cronenberg versions of themselves are trying to keep him captured, not letting them leave. I believe that's what happens. Yeah, and then as things are getting out of control, the Ricks from all these other dimensions crash into this Cronenberg dimension and more or less, I guess, sort of rescue Summer and Morty, but not really. They sort of they get imprisoned or they get captured and are being taken to the citadel where all the Ricks are, and are being held prisoners, I guess. And they tell, or the Summer tells this other Ricks that their Rick is being held prisoner in the Intergalactic Federation's cell, prison, whatever. And they immediately let Summer know that they're going to rescue him, but immediately assassinate him as soon as they rescue him. So this takes us back to when they crush into the headquarters of the Intergalactic Federation. They kill the vegetative Rick, and before they were about to kill the bug that Rick's consciousness is in. He uses this device where he teleports his consciousness into a Mohawk Rick, which is what I'll call him. He's a Rick with a Mohawk. So as soon as he does that, the Mohawk Rick kills all the other Ricks that crash into the headquarters. But before he kills the last Rick tells him that Summer and Morty are being held prisoners in the Rick, multiple Rick from all the different dimensions. I think it's called the Citadel, so we'll just call it that. So they're being held prisoners in the Citadel. So since Summer and Morty are prisoners at the Citadel, they are I guess going through some sort of trial, and the Rick elders are trying to get Summer and Morty to renounce their Rick, and if they do so, they will be lenient in their punishment. I don't know what the punishment would have been. We never got to that point. So Rick manages to escape the Intergalactic Federation's headquarters in some sort of spaceship, and is approaching the Citadel where all the Ricks are, and Rick requests to speak with a higher clearance officer, and as soon as one comes on the communication channels, Rick immediately transfers his consciousness into this high-ranking officer, and he now has access to a control room in the Citadel that can teleport the Citadel anywhere in the universe. I believe that's how it goes. So Rick decides to transfer the entire Citadel into the prison where he was being held. So in a really cool scene that was well animated, it's possibly one of the best scenes I've seen in a Rick and Morty episode. He takes this whole entire Citadel and teleports it right smack in the middle of the prison, and we get to see all of this, and it's well done. It's an awesome scene. It's probably my favorite scene from the episode. So from then on, Rick manages to get to where actually all hell breaks loose. All the multiple Ricks from multiple dimensions are fighting all the prisoners that broke out from the prison. It's all hell broke loose. Everyone's fighting each other. There's like a huge gun battle. While all of this is happening, Rick gets to where Summer and Morty are, and he kills all the other elders, the Rick elders, and except for the one that manages to take Summer hostage, and he tells our Rick that he's gonna kill Summer if he doesn't give up. Rick says, "I'll go ahead. I don't care. There's literally an endless amount of grandchildren. I could care less if you kill this particular Summer." So Summer gets angry and Morty gets angry, and Morty decides to point a gun at Rick, which is a gun that Rick gave to Morty and told him, "Here, take this gun. You're going to need it later." So Rick manages to convince the Rick that's holding Summer hostage that he doesn't care about her. Then Summer gets angry, Morty gets angry, and as soon as Morty points the gun at Rick, Rick turns around to Morty and says, "Morty, you're an idiot. I had him. He totally believed that I didn't care about Summer. I wasn't actually going to kill her. Morty, you're a dumbass." Summer gets in on the action and starts calling him an idiot. And even the other Rick that's holding Summer hostage calls him an idiot. They manage to piss off Morty. Morty shoots Rick. And the Rick that's holding Summer hostage thinks he's dead, but he's not. So Rick wakes up and shoots the guy that's holding Summer hostage because it turns out that Rick handed over Morty a fake gun. So it's all happening so quick. It's such a quick-paced episode, and it sort of ends like that. We go back to... Actually, no, hold on. So Rick manages to topple the entire... intergalactic federation by simply turning a 1 into a 0, making all the currency, all the money worthless, meaning they can't really run this society without money. So he completely destroys it, and all hell breaks loose back on Earth, and all the aliens that were living on Earth decide to flee, and you see all these ships and all these aliens leaving planet Earth, leaving Earth the way it was before they got there. And this is more or less how the episode ends. We see that Jerry and his wife, they're gonna get divorced because he gives her an ultimatum to pick between him or Rick, and I guess she picked Rick, and we don't know if we're gonna see Jerry in future episodes, because even Rick himself says that they are gonna go on many adventures, and he also mentions that this is gonna be one of the darkest seasons so far, or darkest seasons yet, but and that they will go on many adventures, but Jerry will never ever, he literally said never, will go on any of these adventures. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going to happen with the Jerry character, the father, but that's more or less how the show ends. Then there's credits roll up, and a la Marvel, we get to see a post-credit scene of Bird Person. But before I get to Bird Person, I just want to say that I'm glad that they took the time to explain how Rick managed to escape from space prison. And I think it was a well-written episode. It looks to me like a lot of thought was put into this episode to write up how all of this happened, how Rick managed to escape, all this transferring, your consciousness from one mind to the other. And we realized that we no longer have the original body of the Rick. We're looking at a different Rick. It's a Rick, but it's a Rick from a different dimension. At least the body is, but the original Rick's consciousness is inside this body of a Rick that's from a different dimension. So I guess technically we still sort of have the same Rick, because ultimately the mind is what's most important. And I'm glad that they didn't just, cop out and not really give a good, solid explanation of how Rick escaped from prison. Love the episode. And getting back to the post-credit scenes, we see that some members of the Intergalactic Federation, which I guess are still alive or they still exist somehow, brought back the one character that I was really upset that they killed in the last season, at the end of last season, which is Bird Person. So they brought him back. Bird Person was brought back to life, and I couldn't be happier. Now, they did bring him back as some sort of, I don't know, cybernetic slash bird person thing. And I guess he's not going to be called Bird Person anymore. There's two names floating around. One was Phoenix Person, and the other one was Cyberbird. I guess there's a bit of a debate as to which name they want to go with. I don't know if the audience has to say on it. I personally like Phoenix Person more than Cyberbird. Yeah, either way, either one I think is pretty good. But his personality is probably not going to be affected that much because he had sort of a monotone kind of robotic delivery anyway. I'm just glad that they brought him back somehow in some sort of, in some form, in any form. I was really disappointed that how could the creators kill such an awesome character, a beloved character. I believe he is. I think he's one of the more popular characters from that show. Maybe you disagree with me, but I've always loved whenever Bird Person came on the scene because I think he's purposely created to be somewhat boring and not very, energetic, but that's the shtick. That's his personality. That's what makes him so funny, and I'm glad that they brought him back, and I can't wait to see what he's going to be like in this season. Now, I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy because it seems that he's working with the Intergalactic Federation. But who knows? We'll see where it goes. And overall, I was very satisfied with this episode. And I can't wait for the third season to begin, if it hasn't already. As of recording of this, I don't think it has started. Maybe it has. Sometimes I'm kind of late with the news of these things. But I can't wait to start watching it, and I recommend it. If you've not checked out Rick and Morty yet, check it out. I've always liked cartoons. I like anime, but I'm not always satisfied with popular cartoons. Like, for example, what's it called, Gravity Falls or Adventure Time. Those two shows they didn't appeal to me. I didn't like the humor. I know they're very popular, but Gravity Falls, I just the humor's not for me. Adventure Time, it's a weird as fuck show. I think if you smoke weed, you might get a really kick out of it, or you might get a lot of enjoyment out of that show. It's really trippy, man. It's a really trippy show, and that aspect of it I actually do like, that it's so weird. It's just so, it's like you're watching an acid trip with that Adventure Time. But it still, overall, it didn't capture my attention, and maybe I'm not the right demographic for it. But Rick and Morty for sure, and I think it's more for an adult, more mature audience as well. It definitely has a lot more, mature content than something like Gravity Falls and Adventure Time. But yeah, check it out. Even if you're not into animated shows or cartoons, I think this show has a very universal appeal. Unless you're a complete idiot, because some of the stuff, might be a little bit too smart for, the knuckle dragging mouth breathers out there who are not in touch with anything. And you know what? This is getting offensive, so I'll just end it here. Anyway, great episode. Great start to a new season, and check it out if you haven't. Peace out.